So before we start with this, I had I don't know whether I should talk about this, but I kind of felt like I had to. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I had a student die yesterday, um, and it, it's wow. I guess I didn't need to talk about it. It's the first student I've ever had die, and she lost a battle to mental illness. Um, And so we did a pasuk in chapter 18. I'll just read it if you. It's not in the megillah you have there. Ruach ish yichalkel machalehu. Sorry. Actually, why don't you read? Just get him to stuff and read it. So it's 18:14. The pasuk and then the of it. Right. So the spirit of a man will sustain him in his illness, or sustain him in his illness. Yeah, and a broken spirit who can lift. Okay, so I think we read the Mitzvahs David. I think we took another approach, but just read the Mitzvahs David again. Yeah. Right. So so he learns the intellectual spirit, meaning the intellect of a person will tolerate and strengthen the meaning improve the sicknesses of the body because it can govern the body in its health. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, and also in its sickness, right? Meaning, in other words, it maintains you in health and in sickness. Right. So when the spirit itself is broken, can you translate?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So when the spirit itself is broken, in sadness and I guess like
worry. Yeah.
Who can save
who can lift it? Yeah.
Lift it? Because it's not. There's no good that can lift it and to strengthen it because it's with the body.
So ki'in haguf nose osa lagzika. So the body cannot lift it to strengthen it. Ki'im ki es haguf, because it is the body. So I don't remember what we ended up deciding, but I think the approach we took from Zeus David was that so it's not a chiddush to say that if you have that your mind can make decisions to govern your health, but if the defect is in the spirit, which really is part of the physical part of the self, then like the thing that you would that like undercuts everything, and like you can't fix it with that. So I think the question we had in this David was like, so what are you supposed to do, or like what's the practical idea of the puzzle? Like, is it just saying that you're doomed? So I think what we said was that a person needs to distinguish between when there is a problem that can be taken care of by the intellect, through like just the normal course, decisions that it makes to regulate health and stuff like that. But then if it is a mental disorder, if it's in the spirit itself, so then you can't solve it through the normal intellectual means. you need to assist the spirit itself. Meaning, if it's a physical cause, if it's like a psychological cause, if it's a neurological cause, then that's going to be the only way to do it. And it's a Mishlei error to assume that you can fix it through decision making. And I was going to talk about this in Rambam Pekius, but I'm not going to try this again. That the Rambam in Hilchos Deos has in Perek Aleph, he has the normal way to improve your midos, right? It's like if you're on one extreme, you should try to go to the other side in order to find the middle path, and to constantly be switching from one to the other. But then when it comes to, let me just read this in the Rambam himself. In Deos Perek Beis, he starts off with Chole haguf tomim hamar matok v'hamatok mar. So people who are sick in the body taste the bitter as sweet and the sweet as bitter. There's some people who are sick, again, this is bodily sickness, that they desire foods that are not proper to eat. Like dirt and coal. And they hate good foods. Like bread and meat. Everything according to the severity of the sickness. Then he says, so too people whose souls are sick. They love, they desire and they love bad deos, bad midos. And they hate the good path. And they're lazy to follow it. And it's very heavy upon them according to the sickness. And then he quotes Yeshaya, woe unto those who say that the good is bad or the bad is good. Samim choshech or lachoshech. Samim marlamatok matok lamar. Woe unto those who make darkness into light and light into darkness, who place the bitter sweet and the sweet bitter. Valehem Ne'amar, regarding them, it says in Mishlei, those who walk in, those who abandon the straight path to walk in the path of darkness. Okay, so that's the equivalent to people who are sick in the body. Then he says, Mahi takanas polan fashos. So what is the way to repair or solve or fix the polan fashos? Yelchu etel hachachamim shehem rofe anfashos v'yirapu choliam b'deos. So you should go to the Rofe Anapashos, the soul doctors, what we would call psychologists, right? What we would call it psychologists. It doesn't mean exclusively psychologists. Like you could have, regular chachamim like in Torah also. But the point is that you go to people who are Rofe Anapashos, the Rapu Choliam B'Deos, and you should and they'll heal your sicknesses and deos and teach you to return to the good derech. People who recognize their bad deos and they don't go to the chachamim to heal them, then these are the people about who Shlomo says in Pasuk 7, 1:7, that the fools despise Musar. So the interesting thing is he doesn't tell you what method the chachamim will use to heal your bad deos, and presumably it's because it's very individualized. And because if it was something that could be actionable by the individual, he would just spell it out like he does everything else, But you've got to go to the chachamim, to the professionals, and they can help you. So that's just another thing. Also, this is it's not the same thing that the Mitzvahs David is talking about, but like, if you misdiagnose, there's a difference between struggling with a midah and then having a choli hanefesh. And if you're struggling with a midah, you use the general technique that he laid out in Perek Aleph. But if you are sick, then you got to go to the chachamim, to get fixed. And so that's another version of the application of Mitzvahs David's thing of the misdiagnosing yourself. Now, this student, I don't know 100% that the student died of, succumbed to her mental illness issues, but she has been struggling with them for years, and she's been very open with that struggle. So she has done everything that yeah, I mean, again, I haven't been like keeping up with the details or anything like that, but like, it's not like she didn't seek help. She sought help, she got help, she's been helped, and she even has, I don't know if this was her career or if this was just something she was very vocal about and passionate about, but she was very into mental health advocacy. So this is not meant as in any way as a criticism of the student, but I felt like I needed to say this as a PSA that like, I've had students and I've known people who've struggled with depression, suicide, self-harm, drug addiction, eating disorders, and like you got to get professional help, because like that's the mistake the Mishnah David is saying, is like thinking that you can just solve it, on your own. Yeah, so I didn't. I'm not saying the student's name out of respect for the privacy, but like, and I didn't ask whether to, I didn't, get permission from the student's family to say this, but like, I felt like I had to say something, and yeah, so that's that. Yep. Ooh, okay. I think I'm going to stop the recording and make a new recording. All right. I mean, I guess any questions about the pasuk or that idea and the application while we're here? I don't even remember what direction we ended up taking. I do remember that came up.
I guess like how does a person know like what the like how do you diagnose yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, ultimately you don't, right? Like that's part, but I guess your question more is how do you know whether to seek a diagnosis, and the loose rule of thumb, I guess, is like, I think I mentioned this in the Q&A once, is that Rabbi Moskowitz would always say in terms of when to seek professional help, like if you have tried the normal strategies and it's not working, and it's getting to the point where it's interfering with your ability to live, to live effectively. And now, obviously, that's a big gray area, but there are black and whites at the end of that. Like if a person tries a strategy for a week and it doesn't work, then that does not mean that that it failed. And if you are actually like, you know, engaging in self harm or have a bad mood that lasts a month, or like you can't, your normal functioning is not, like has, for a marked quantity or degree been compromised, then that's like a sign that you should like seek at least seek a diagnosis to see whether you need professional help, and and I was going to say another thing also, that oh yeah, this is not in relation to your question, but just another thing also is like, again, I have not, I mean, I've only like loosely kept up with a student, but like, and maybe this doesn't even need to be said, but like, so this was this is a person who was one of the most intelligent students I've ever taught, real truth seeker, great midos, academic overachiever, 4.0 GPA, picture of success to lots of other people, but that has nothing to do with like, the mental illness issue is like, you could person can always be struggling with things like that. And these things could come about in spite of those challenges, or they could come about based on the same causes, like, lots of great artists and geniuses suffer from depression, or lots of overachievers are compelled by their dark forces, and so like, it's it's and the other thing also is like this can strike anybody, like, and oh, another thing also, so as I was like make that point and come back to your question, is that that this is an example also of how, like, this is a very Mishlei idea. You can do everything that's right and make all the right decisions, and it doesn't turn out well. Like all you can do is like make the right decisions, and then and the rest is in God's hands. But so going back to what you're saying also is like, there are, if things like this run in the family, that's another reason to be more vigilant about your own thing, like about if you start to exhibit symptoms of this, like if depression, addiction, things like that run in the family, then then you should be more inclined to assume that this might be something from similar issues, even in different forms, like like you could have a family where one person is an alcoholic, another person is suffering from depression, and it could be like similar factors. I mean, I don't know enough about the neurology of it, but yeah. And again, just, and I'm not saying with this student that it ran her family, I have no idea about her family, but yeah. And it's also another thing, just, I mean, this is more of a Koheles thing. It's like, I've definitely seen other teachers who have been in similar situations, but like, it's like an assumption that like all of my students are still young, and therefore stuff like this can't happen, and if it does happen, it's like a freak accident. But this is not a freak accident. This is something that has been a long hard road, and came to an end yesterday, and that's like a different level of like a freak accident is a tragedy, but it's a different kind of tragedy than watching a long-term struggle and then end this way, and so like, I guess the thought that this kind of stuff can't happen, or like it won't happen, or like it happens to other people but not to people I know. In fact, this is, I've known a lot of people who have struggled with mental health issues, and this is the first person I've known, like on a personal level, who has succumbed to them, and that it's yeah, I mean, no one's immune, yeah. Yep. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, so let's stop this here, and I'm just going to now start